Hey guys, how's it going? We are live and welcome to the Power Show. It's Perry Power, your host, and today with us we have the amazing Laurie McNeil. How you doing today?
I am fabulous. How are you?
I am fantastic. It looks like it's shining bright where you are, and it is quite dark where I am. So you're obviously in the States, right?
I am. I'm coming from Eastern Oregon today, so it's morning time where I live, and I think it's evening time in the UK where you are.
It is, yeah. It's about 6:30, 6:10. Yeah, so it's getting there. It's getting there. How's your week been? Been quick for
It's been
me.
great. It's been super busy, of course, because that's just the life of an entrepreneur. But it's been
Well, yes.
fabulous, and I think I've been able to connect with so many great people, and I know that you've been connecting with some great people this week, and yeah, it's just we just keep hustling, just keep moving forward. So thank you so much for having me on your show today.
Oh, not a problem. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you for jumping on. We've already got some viewers here. Evan, Power Show, there we go. You know it. So just take the viewers just through a little bit of a story, how you got to where you are today and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I, like many people, have all kinds of roller coasters throughout my life story that brings me to where I am today. So I traveled around a lot as a young girl, and people tend to ask me when I say that, "Oh, were you in the military? Are your parents in the military?" And no, we just traveled around a lot. My dad had different jobs, and we were a family that just liked to travel and do things and see things. So I found
That's
myself
cool.
in many different states growing up. 30 something, I think, total so far. So I've
Wow.
traveled around a lot. And um, of course, there's really great opportunities that come with that, and challenges that come with that as well. And so then about third grade-ish, my family and I actually then settled into a community um, in Oregon, actually, um, a couple hours from here, where I actually got to live for almost 3 years. And that was the longest at that time that I had ever lived anywhere. So that gave me an opportunity to learn and grow and develop relationships in completely new ways than
Mm.
I ever had before, because I'd never lived anywhere very long. So although that was great and exciting, it really left me with struggling with some more or less attachment issues, and struggling to figure out kind of who I was in the world, and what I had to offer, and if it was worth offering myself in for such a short amount of time. Was that even worth
Yeah.
the effort? Like for relationships, was that even worth the effort of getting involved in certain activities, or, on several different levels? And so there were definitely pros and cons that came with that. And so to be in one community for almost 3 years was a whole new experience, even though by this time I was around 9 years old. So it was
Hmm.
almost like I was relearning a lot of stuff, or learning stuff, for the first time. So that kind of started this interesting journey of really figuring out a little bit more about what I wanted, who I was, and what I wanted, out of life, and what I had to offer, and all that kind of a thing, in a little bit of a different way. And then fast forward a little bit more, and I actually got to live in a different community than as I attended high school, and for 5 years. And so that was then the longest that I had ever lived anywhere through high school. And that came with all kinds of different challenges. In your teens, it's just never an easy time for anyone. And so I was struggling a little bit to kind of just that deeper level of self discovery, and what made me special. Really, I mean, I know a lot of people kind of think that, like, who am I, and what do I have to offer to the world, and why is it important? And but I was almost learning a lot of these things a little bit later, maybe because of that 0 to 5, 0 to 8 range, where a lot of things foundationally are set in our DNA, or in the blueprint of our mind for life. It was almost
Yeah.
like I was kind of reinventing, or reestablishing, or learning a lot of that stuff a little bit later. And again, pros and cons to that process. But I found myself, as I was kind of going throughout my journey, I actually found myself just really frustrated because I was struggling to find that sense of self. And so I didn't really know how to deal with a lot of the challenges that came along with not standing firm in my value and knowing that. So I didn't know how to respond to people that were just mean. Honestly, like there were a lot of those skills that just weren't very, very strong in me. And so for a few years, I struggled with this idea of, well, I'm not in competition with anyone, but why does it seem like people are in competition with me or being mean? Like I didn't really get that. And so, I went through all kinds of things. You're not skinny enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not smart enough. You're not skilled enough. You don't like just everything under the sun. I went through this period of time where I heard everything, and it was not all, I shouldn't say all, but there was a portion of that in my mind, it was so negative to me. I thought, okay, I'm not fitting in. I'm not fitting the mold of like what people think I should be. Right. And it's because I was struggling to figure out who I was. And so there were times when that was really hard to deal with, because I dealt with it in the best way that I could. It was, okay, I need to get better grades, so I will work really hard to get better grades, and I need to be this type of a person, and I need to be funny enough, and I need to fit in with this group, and I need to do this. And it was exhausting. It was exhausting because I found myself being so many different things and different types of people in order to fit into all these different groups or all these different ways that people were telling me that I needed to be a certain way. And so that was really hard. And
how old are you again?
So this was actually a little bit of a range into my teens and somewhat into my early 20s, actually, at this time. So I'm almost 40 now. And so there was a few years in there where I was just really trying to kind of figure a lot of things out. And in fact, when I was in high school, I had a lot of really great teachers and mentors in high school, but one of my most trusted mentors actually told me, and because I trusted her and had a relationship with her, I really internalized this comment. And I don't hold it, against this person at all. But it was really tough to hear. I had several high school counselors. One of my high school counselors told me that I wasn't a good fit for college, that college wasn't a thing for me. I needed to maybe explore some other ideas. And she was trying to be very nice and helping me discover what that was. But I remember thinking, wow, really? Like, I know I'm not super, super smart. I'm not like the top 5% of my class, but I just thought, wow, am I thinking that my capabilities are maybe stronger than they really are? Like, is everyone else seeing something and I'm just in denial? Like, these were actually really thoughts that I was having, to where I thought, oh, well, I don't, I'm not a conceited person. I don't want to think more highly of myself, or anything like that. But it was really hard because it's a lot easier, even though the words hurt, it's a lot easier to dismiss negativity from people that you don't have as much of a relationship with, or that you don't even know, or whatever. But when it comes from people that you're supposed to love and trust, that's a lot. That's a lot harder. So this was somebody that I admired greatly, that I had built a relationship with, that had, been there for me in various ways in the school community. And so I didn't know what to do with that, because I just thought, like, I was going to go to college. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time, because I ended up being the first one in my family actually to graduate from college. But I wanted to go. I wanted to see what it was all about. Even if I didn't end up, if I ended up flunking out or hating it, or, whatever, I wanted to at least go and try and see what it was about. And so I actually, I didn't get any academic scholarships to go. And I rallied and kind of advocated for myself to get in on academic probation, because I didn't have very high grades at the time. But I did get a lot of non-academic scholarships that were for different social clubs and, sports and community involvement and all these non-academic things. So I did have a little bit of money actually to start my journey with, which I was very grateful for. So I started out my academic journey very behind. And so I worked really, really hard and I applied myself just to see what was possible. And I ended up being the first person in my family to graduate from college. And in that time, I actually started my international journey and teaching experience and travels as well. So that's really when the shift started to happen for me with I can do it. Like it is possible. And there's a lot of people that have, they might mean well, or they might try to tear you down for various reasons. And I've learned along the way that it's their own insecurities and their own jealousies that really have nothing to do with me. But when you're going through that, those things are just really, really hard to deal with and really hard to kind of sift through and figure out. And so I started my love for international teaching actually when I was in college. And so I traveled all over the place for years and teaching in one-room classrooms, teaching in larger settings, teaching in villages, teaching all over the place. And that's when I I'd been teaching kind of informally for a while with different community programs and things like that. But that's when I really developed a real passion and love and desire for teaching. And that really came out of, and it took me a long time to actually discover this, but that's really where my passion grew out of other people telling me that I wasn't good enough and that I wasn't smart enough and that I wasn't capable enough. And I thought, you know what? Who am I to dictate someone else's passions and dreams and journeys and say that someone isn't capable of doing something? And I thought there's a lot of people out there that struggle with a lot of lack of support or just plain meanness or jealousy or all those things. And people deal with those in a lot of different ways. There's depression and alcoholism and abuse and all these different things that can come out of the negativity in our lives and not knowing how to deal with those things. And I thought, I really want to be that light for people. I really want to be that educator, that mentor, that teacher that really encourages and drives and pushes people to become the best versions of themselves and to create that the space for that learning opportunity and that growth to really do and be anything that you want. Because I am an example of, I very easily could have listened really to that person that I loved and trusted and not even applied to college. But there was something in me that just was curious enough that I took that next step and then continued down that journey to just discovering what else was out there, and I was okay at the time. I was okay with, if they're right, great, but at least I'll know. Like in my mind, I just wanted to know. Is this a good fit for me? Am I going to like it? I just wanted to at least experience it and know. So I think for me as a coach now to journey alongside of people and just help them to see and discover the tools that are inside themselves to just take that next step. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to be completely confident. Actually, I mean, you have to be willing to take that next step and to at least start down that path of discovering who you are, what's important to you, why it's important to you, and what's your overall purpose in life. And why do you do what you do? What gets you out of bed every morning? And I know that's kind of cliche because we hear that a lot, but truly you have to have a deeper desire and a deeper purpose in your life for what drives you. It can't just be about the money. It can't just be about the surface goal. Those goals are great. And there's all kinds of different goals to have out there. But you have to have something deeper within you that is going to sustain your drive. That's going to be that deeper purpose that pushes you in life, long term. So that's really when I started my teaching journey. But in that kind of difficult time in my life, I actually then started doing a lot of creative writing and a lot of more or less journaling through creative writing and writing poetry and writing and taking writing workshops. And I didn't know it at the time, but that would actually become a huge part of my professional career as a writer. And so then I've written several books, and I actually have a couple of others coming out as well. And I use those as tools to just reach people on a different level, just different tools to help people and to reach people. And all the books that I write are specifically designed with activities or action steps in the back of the books. So you may not ever speak with me. You may not ever be in one of my webinars or live seminars or anything like that. But if you have your hands on one of my books, I want it to be the most valuable tool that it can be. So I share my heart in every piece of work. There's a lot of research that goes into every piece of work. There's a lot of design. I'm also a curriculum designer. So there's a lot of design that goes into every book. And then there's actual activities and action steps and, meant to be thought-provoking things that are included in every single book to further that learning. So it's important to me that it's not just this really great feel-good book that maybe you get some nuggets out of, but that it's really a deeper tool for processing internally and externally with whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. So everything that I teach is about that connection between your internal self and your external value in the world. So and all of my books talk about that. There's this connection. I talk about that. I teach about that a lot because you're not two different people. You're not, and if you try, and a lot of people try, you'll hear people say, leave your family issues at the door when you come to work, or you'll hear spouses say, leave your work at work when you come home, and all those different things. But the truth is, the core of who you are is still you. You're still the same person. You maybe need to access different tools at different times in order to best navigate certain situations, certain challenges, certain people. Certainly, absolutely. But the core of who you are is still the same. And so you really need to know who you are and why you do what you do. And so that internal work is super, super, super important. And the more that you try to separate those two worlds, the more frustration will come. And I always tell people that even the top most successful people, there's something, and I'm not saying not everyone does this, but if they're not dealing with their internal stuff, their stuff, right? Whatever that is for you, that they're actually limiting themselves in more ways than they even realize. They can be a multi-million-dollar earner, but how much more successful and how much more value can you add if you actually deal with your stuff? So on some level, it's actually holding you back more than you realize. So I'm very, very passionate about every course that I design, every class that I teach, every book that I write. Everything that I do is meant to add the most value that I possibly can. And that's why I have action steps and work, and I don't want to call them worksheets because that's too much of a teacher type of a term, but there's activities and there's steps that you can take to further your journey that takes you into that deeper dive of discovering to get you from wherever you are to where you want to be. And that journey is so different for everyone. And a healthy competition is healthy. To have competition, you want to push yourself, to be better than you were yesterday, to be better at the end of the day than you were this morning. Those kind of things are good. Those kind of things are important and healthy when you're growing. But I always teach and encourage people the importance of not being in competition with other people. There's a difference between having a healthy competitive edge for that drive and being in competition with other people to where it throws your whole focus off. Yeah. Big difference. You can have models. You can model certain business plans, certain strategies. You can model your life after other people that you would admire. That's different. That actually is healthy. Those are things that you want to have. You want to have a strategy. You want to have an action. You want to go after, the thing in the people and in the businesses that you're striving for. But there's a difference when you take it too far and you actually become competitive, where it's very destructive. So I teach people the difference in that and how to live in a more healthy mindset in that way as you're going through your own growth journey. So the book that actually just came out, it's on a soft launch right now, just came out a few days ago. I actually co-authored a book with Kevin Harrington, the original shark of Shark Tank and the pioneer of As Seen on TV. Yes, it is fabulous. This book has been over a year in the making. And I flew down to California a few months ago, and Kevin and I and his team and some amazing other entrepreneurs actually met in California for a couple of days and just strategized a little bit about the book launch and did a little bit of deeper dive into that personal stuff, because Kevin also understands that personal connection between the internal and the external. And so we had some great conversations about that, talked a lot about the book tour that's coming up and different media types of opportunities. So the world will be hearing a lot more about that book. It is on a very, very soft launch right now. So technically the ebook is on Amazon, to where you can flip through a couple of the pages on Amazon. The actual hard copy of the book will be out very soon. So I'm excited to actually have it in my hands, because it's been a project that's just been, like I said, over a year actually in progress. So I'm very excited just to have the e version out right now, and just to actually be moving forward with that process. So there's going to be a lot more about that. So in that book, the portions that I wrote, I actually take people through a little bit of a journey of my young entrepreneurial journey, and I tell very very simple stories about the different types of businesses that I have had along my journey, and the different things that I have learned from each one of those that have served as foundational tools for how I have continued in my life personally, and have continued to stick to those foundational things for the business that I have now as an international educator and coach, and then foundations for how I help other people build their businesses as well. So a lot of times we tend to discount some of the simple things, and really it's those foundational things that make all the difference in the world. So I always tell people, like, think of, whether you played an instrument or whether you played a sport or, you play chess, whatever it is, there are foundational principles that you have to practice over and over and over and over that give you that edge, that make a difference between anyone that doesn't practice and the person that does practice. There's a really, really big difference in that. So as an entrepreneur, we have those foundational things that we need to make a complete part of our essence and who we are, and that we practice daily. And that's going to be a little bit different for each person, depending on the tools that are in your toolbox that make you who you are and the type of business that you have. But there's daily routines that you need to have. There's certain relational tools that you need to have. There's a mindset that you need to have. There's all these different things that make a really big difference in your long-term success. It doesn't mean that you won't be successful or achieve some level of success if you don't practice these things. Just like you might know how to play the piano, you might be a really fast runner, but there's going to be that difference between the discipline that it takes to stay focused on those foundational principles that will actually lead to that long-term success that you're after. So I tell some really simple stories about some of the businesses that I've had along the way and the principles that have come out of that. So that's the focus. It's a little bit more entrepreneurial as far as the book with Kevin specifically. And Kevin is at a point in his life where he is helping more and more entrepreneurs. He always has, but his journey has changed to where he's mentoring people like me, and he's mentoring and helping other entrepreneurs that aren't where he is, help get them to where he is and achieve higher levels of success. So I'm very, very honored to be working with him, and that I've had that opportunity to be in such a unique process like this over the last year. It's definitely aided in much of my growth and in my growth journey. So that's the book that just is a soft launch right now. The other book I'm working on is about half done, maybe a little over half done. I'm going to be finishing it up here in the next few months or so, and it'll be out. But it's a book specifically designed to teach people how to discover the essence of who they are. So we all have things within ourselves that we maybe want to sweep under the rug, or that maybe we don't see in ourselves, or we don't view as very valuable, or we know that we have some tools and we're not quite sure how to use them. So there's all these different things. So this book is actually focused specifically on really, really doing a deeper dive and discovering who you are as a person and the tools in your toolbox that make you uniquely qualified to live out your passion. And so I use an example that I use to describe this is that you can have two businesses in the same small town, maybe even on the same block. It could be a coffee shop, it could be a retail store, it could be, anything. And you might have some, businesses might ask themselves, well, there's two of us. Like what's going to attract customers to me, or what makes me different? What makes me unique? Why would customers buy from me versus someone else? And so this is where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in that competition mode of thinking like they watch too much. In a way, too much. They're paying attention to the wrong things and what that competition is doing or not doing. And instead, they need to focus internally on the tools that they have in their own toolbox and how to leverage their own skill set, their own mindset, their own tools on every level. And that means even the garbage in our past, to leverage the uniqueness and the essence of who they are that make them so uniquely qualified to be a powerhouse in their industry. So to be focused on what you have to offer and not focused on what your competition is offering or not offering. And that may sound simple, but so many entrepreneurs get stuck in the competition. They get stuck in it. And their focus is just completely in the wrong place. And they're spinning their wheels. And a year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, they're wondering why they're not actually where they thought they would be or where they want to be. And so it's a book that really focuses a lot more on the internal essence of who you are, so that you actually can get from wherever you are to where you want to be faster and stronger for more long-term sustainability. So those are the two projects I have going on right now, in addition to many other articles that I'm writing. I actually have been featured on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox most recently, and 500 other media outlets across the country, and continue to be. So I'm always writing and producing new content and things all the time. So in addition to my books, I'm always developing, other things and other projects about, I don't know, anywhere from 8 to 12 at the same time. I always have things going on. So as things come to fruition, they didn't just magically happen. They've actually been in the works for quite a while. But I actually think that that's an important point, because when I talk to other entrepreneurs, you picture, many of us have seen the iceberg, right? Where it's like the success is maybe the 10% or whatever sticking above the ocean, and there's 90% of stuff under the ocean. And there's different ways to look at that. It's so easy to look at someone else's success and think, oh gosh, they seem like they've been successful forever, right? Or they seem like their success came really, really quickly. When the truth is, we all have stuff. So remember that when you see someone else, and remember that there's that difference between that healthy competition and not being in competition. But then the other part of that, when you deal with the internal work and you're staring at that same iceberg, remember what it took for you and your internal work, all the deep work that has to happen underneath to get to that tip. So there's a couple of different ways that you can look at it internally and externally. So the hard work that you're going through under the surface to accomplish any little thing, big or small, every day, every week, every month, every year. So don't forget the hard work that you see, that when somebody else has that success, the hard work that you're going through or what it takes to get there. Don't forget that someone else on their own journey has also had a whole bunch of stuff under the surface that you can't see. So there's a couple of different ways to look at that iceberg that I think is very, very important, that helps us to keep that perspective when we think about competition and how we think about competition. So I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. And I am constantly pushing myself to be better than I was the day before. And so I live out the principles every day that I truly believe in and that I teach, because it's so important. I go back to my foundational tools and principles every single day because they've made such a huge difference in my mindset and how I've been able to navigate through the different levels of success. I am so, so thankful that I didn't listen to all of the negativity growing up, and that I knew that there was something deeper inside of me that needed to come out, that needed to be discovered. And I learned how to do that, just taking one step at a time and discovering how to get there. And so I just want to encourage people. It's hard. It's hard work. And there are some people that are just mean and they will try to tear you down and they will keep you from success and they will keep you from accomplishing what you want. But I want to encourage you just to take that next step and don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. You've got to have that courage. You've got to have that faith over fear, and you've got to just step out, sometimes in blind faith, just that next step. Just take that next step. You don't have to have all the answers, but just keep going. And I truly, truly believe that so many people are stuck in that, and there's so much power within themselves that needs to come out. And I love helping people discover that and breaking free from that and living a life that they never even thought possible.
Yeah, just brilliant so far. And just to add to that as well is I know exactly what you're saying. I know when I started my entrepreneur journey, I went through social media. I was a personal trainer. I thought about creating like a cleaning company. Like basically, I thought about doing so many different things, right? I was shiny ball syndrome because I was following the voices of the market. You know, I didn't look inside myself to see what I actually really wanted to do. And there was like a moment where my coach said to me, look into your life, like look through, your own chapters, what you've been through, say it out loud. And then when I started to develop my story, I was like, wow, I can actually help people not go through what I've been through. And now I'm on my own journey, but what I was saying, like before that was invisible to me. I didn't see that. I didn't even know it was an option, that I can make my own story like an anchor to help other people, until someone told me and someone showed me the way. So that's why I think it's great what you're doing, because you're going to help so many people. I know you're doing so already, that didn't even think it was possible that they can open themselves up and follow their heart. They just feel like they have to follow someone else's footsteps. I think that's great.
It's so important. We live in such a fast-paced world where even if people mean well, they're constantly pushing us to that next thing and that next thing. Like for instance, I think about the different journey along life. So there might be people that, oh, I can't wait for my child to be potty trained. Oh, I can't wait for them to sleep at night. Oh, I can't wait for them to graduate, high school. Oh, I can't wait for their, there's all these things. You can't wait for them to get married. Can't wait for them to have kids. And I think our society just pushes people through life. And we've really almost become conditioned to it. And so it's really hard. I mean, I understand it's hard when you think you're behind, because there's so many messages in our world that are telling us that we're behind and we've got to hurry and we've got to get to that next step and we've got to do the next thing. And so, there's all these different things around us that are constantly telling us set of, oh, okay, I've got to do this and I've got to do this and I've got to do this and I've got to please this person and this is what I'm supposed to be doing and whatever. And we lose that sense of self. We lose that sense of innocent that just follows our dreams really and follows what we want to do. And I think as we get older, we can really lose that. And so and it is possible to get that back, but it does take a little bit of work. There's the question that, elementary teachers will ask a student with, what do you want to be when you grow up? And some students go on to be just that exact thing. And other students, discover something else that they want to be. But that sense of just freedom to think and explore and create the life that you want, that you're meant to be living, and what that looks like. I think we lose a lot of that just as we go along our life, and different experiences or negativity or frustrations or whatever kind of eat away at us little by little by little. And so then we have a hard time just deciphering through all of the mess and all of the stuff. And it's so important that we have a message inside of us. We have the tools and the essence of who we are that make us so uniquely qualified to spread our light into the world, that we absolutely can turn our mess into our message. And so it's so important to really understand what it takes. So that resourcing up, that might be taking a class, that might be hiring a coach, that might be, going on a deep dive journaling and research and reading journey. That may be a combination of, several different things to get you there. But the idea is just to take that next step and just take action toward getting you there. Because it really, truly is up to you. Truly. And I have people that say, well, you don't understand. Like, this happened to me, and I've had this, and I've had this, and I've had this. And I'm like, you still have choices. It may not seem like it, but you still have choices to take that next step, no matter how baby it is. There's still a next step that can be taken. And so helping people discover that is, and the first time I really started discovering what I call the light bulb moment, early on as a young teacher, that's when I really almost became hooked, I guess, on really, really understanding the importance of the value of the role that I have the choice to play in someone else's journey. And it doesn't matter if it's a math problem, it doesn't matter if it's a concept, it doesn't matter if it's a huge mindset change, whatever it is. It's that light bulb moment where literally you can see it in their eyes, it goes off, and that they have just learned something, discovered something that flipped that switch in their mind where it's not possible for them to ever be the same. They won't ever go back because it's been a permanent change. It's been something in their mind that switched to where if they learned a new math problem or concept, they've learned it. They won't go back to unlearning that. If you've learned to ride a bicycle, you won't unlearn how to ride a bicycle, right? If you've had a major mind shift change that has been this process that has taken you through major changes, this ripple effect of major changes, you won't go back to the way you were before that. You might have to re-establish some of those discipline habits or those things as you go along your journey, but your mind won't go back to the same way it was before that shift happened. So there will still be a permanent change that happens. So I call that the light bulb moment, when I know that there are things that will never be the same. And that is, I love that. I love working with people and knowing that I help them discover a deeper sense of themselves that will be forever changed.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. And because I've seen, when I've been sharing my story and I see people who listen to my story or have consumed a bit of content for myself, and they've messaged me or they've called me up and they've told me the shift, the flip, like what you just said, the light bulb moment that they just had. And the feeling that I get that I helped that person get that light bulb moment, it is incredible. And I think we all have the power to do it. And I just think because that's in our control, I think it's beautiful. It really is. But it's a shame that not a lot of people know that they're capable of doing that to other people, if you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It breaks my heart. And it's a piece of what drives me to help so many people, because there's so much untapped light, untapped tools, untapped genius out there that the world is waiting for. You've probably heard the saying that if you can make a difference in one person's life, like, that's awesome. You've done your job, kind of a thing. And it really is so true, because there's that ripple effect of that impact of the lives that one person touches and whatnot. And there's so much out there. The world needs to know who you are. The world needs to hear your story. The world needs your tools in your unique toolbox. They need your genius. there's so many people out there waiting for you.
Yeah. Waiting to hear your voice, to give them permission, in a sense, to do it themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, big time, big time. Well, wow. I mean, you've definitely blown us away. It's a very exciting journey you're on. So how long until the actual book is out? So I know you said it's a soft launch, didn't you?
The Kevin Harrington book. So
Yeah.
I haven't heard an actual date, but we're working on some of the soft launch right now. If I had to guess, I'd say the actual hardback, paperback book will hit the shelves in the next maybe 45 days.
Okay, so definitely this year then. So okay,
oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely this
awesome.
year. And then my other book that I was referring to will definitely be out within the next couple of months for sure. So they're both actually going to end up in hardcover about the same time, which is not planned at all. But that's just how it's going to end up. So
healthy competition.
Yeah, yeah. So I have both of those books actually coming out in hard and soft cover on shelves all over the place within the next couple of months. So that'll be really interesting, really fun. So definitely, connect with me, stay posted on that, watch Amazon, whatever, because they're really awesome tools. I'm really excited. I've poured my heart and soul and a lot of time into developing both of them. And I have all kinds of fun stuff coming up too with some things that are being developed. So if anyone wants to connect with me, feel free to reach out and connect with me and follow me on Facebook or any other social media platform. Send me a message, an email, or, whatever. I love connecting with people. So I love people. So definitely I wanted to open up that invitation and just let people know that I'm more than happy to connect.
For sure, yeah. And then just before we go, for people that are watching who maybe are going through a patch where all they're hearing is negativity, they may turn to somebody about a dream that they have and they shoot them down. What could you say, or what sort of guidance could you give somebody who's in that position, who may be starting to believe that type of negativity and not putting the step forward to chase after what they want?
Absolutely. That's a good question. So there's different strategies, of course, that will work for different people. But one of the things that you can do right now, today, is to really think about where the negativity is coming from. Is it coming from your friends? Is it coming from your family? Is it coming from, bad external influences of people you're just hanging out with, that you're associating with, that kind of thing? And really think about where that negativity is coming from. And then, as difficult as it may be, make the choices to not spend as much time, maybe with those people. I mean, that association and that influence is so powerful. It's a little bit harder when it's your family, but there are definitely things that you can do to kind of distance yourself a little bit, in that way. Journaling is another really good tool. Write several pages in a day if you have to get it all out on paper so that you feel like you have that outlet. And like I was sharing earlier, for me growing up, I actually developed my writing skills through creative writing and poetry. And so for me, that was an outlet. But many successful people will tell you that that is a part of their journey as well, through dealing with a lot of stuff, is journaling. There's a lot of people that just will have that as their daily practice. So that's definitely something that you can do. But the other thing is that you will, so a part of that is that you will attract what you have in your life, right? You're hearing negativity. You're actually going to be attracting more negativity into your life than you realize just by those choices. But the other piece of that is to make sure that you're filling your headspace with more positivity. So if you feel like there's a lot of negative people in your life, then you need to make an effort to reach out to more positive people. If you feel like you have a negative work environment, then you need to counterbalance that with some other positive things in your life. So you need to take control and figure that out. And again, you don't have to have all the answers, but you do need to have that faith to just take the next step and try it. A lot of people, I don't believe in failures, because I'm trying new things all the time, right? Some things work, some things don't work, but you've learned something in that process. So whether you need to join a more positive social club Maybe you need to reach out to people you never thought maybe you had anything in common with, to be friends with. Whatever that looks like for you, you need to counterbalance all of that negativity, especially if there's things that maybe are outside of your control with where that negativity is coming from. There are still choices that you can make to put more positivity into your life. That might be listening to positive podcasts, and putting those positive words into your brain every day. It might be journaling. It might be reaching out to people. It might be joining a social club. It might be volunteering in the community. There's so many different ways to put positive influence in your life that no matter how negative it is, and it might be a horrible abusive situation, but what are you telling yourself in your mind? Can you listen to music? Can you sing? So you have to try to work hard, and you might have to work really hard, but get creative at taking that next step and trying something. You may hate to write. You may not like journaling. Try it. If you've never tried it, just try it. At least commit to, 30 days of journaling and just seeing what comes out of that. If you hate it, you hate it. But at least try it and then keep trying the next thing that works. So that's a couple of ideas of things that people can do right now to counterbalance that.
Brilliant. That was awesome. Thank you very much. And yeah, so for everyone that's watching, if you do want to connect with Laurie, she will be tagged in this live, so you can simply just click onto her Facebook and then just reach out to you via Messenger, right? Probably be the best way.
Absolutely.
Awesome stuff. Well, thank you for coming on to the Power Show. It's been splendid. It's been about 50 minutes, I think. Flown by. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, it's great. What we do actually is maybe write down the books in the comments below so people can keep an eye out for it, and then they can maybe go over and check out the PDF as well. I think would be good.
Absolutely, okay. No problem.
So cool. So we'll do that. Awesome stuff. Well, thank you very much for coming on. If anybody got any questions, no problem. If anybody got any questions for Laurie, then definitely put them down in the comments below.
Absolutely.
Cool. Peace out, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.